Thank you, everybody, for attending the San Juan Bautista City Council meeting, January 20th. Appreciate everybody showed up tonight. Lead it off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everybody. All righty, if I can get a roll call.
Councilmember Bott?
Here.
Councilmember West?
Here.
Councilmember Martorana?
Here.
Vice Mayor Edge?
Here.
Mayor Lund?
Here. All right, thank you. I'm going to open it up for public comment. This is for items that are not on the agenda tonight. We're limited to 3 minutes, so if you'd like to come up, do we have any speaker cards?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Okay. I work at the library. I don't know. I guess everybody knows that.
Yeah.
We do.
Okay. Connie's passing out my topic. So basically, if you've ever walked in dog poop, unknowingly tracked it in your car or your house, this would help the situation. And I'm pushing mostly for the library because I've walked in it at the library and tracked it in my car and into my house. So, and you see, I went to Amazon, copied out the dispenser, and then I didn't copy out the comments, but there are 2 comments that it's well constructed, mounted to the side of their deck. And then these other people said good value for this type of product, good construction, extra keys. Had to add their own pole, but I have a pole at home. But even buying a pole still made this much better value than buying one that already came with a pole. I went down south last week and went to a doggy park just because it was something we did. And noticed that at this dog park they had several good-sized boxes, and people, obviously the dog owners, just put in their plastic bags from home, so they didn't have to purchase extra bags in case that's an issue. But I'm happy to donate also. $12.59 for 700 bags once the 400 bags run out. So library, definitely, that's why I'm here, but I was also thinking Veruti Park, baseball field, soccer field as the other sites that the city pays attention to and owns. So that's my issue.
All right, we'll appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Are there trash cans around the area where they can dispose of the...
Yes, and they do. Some
Okay.
people do.
Okay.
Not everyone. I've talked to dog owners and they say, oh, I
Where?
forgot my bag. So it'd be nice to have that easily accessible.
Around the library, there's the garbage.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's used.
And then the other places you're talking
Well,
about,
Veruti Park, soccer field, and the baseball field.
and Chris, you were saying that they're,
You need to agenda.
okay. Oh, it's just for the questions. So that when we bring it back and talk about it later, we can do on that. Okay, well, thank you. Any more speaker cards? Okay. Move to consent items. Approve affidavit of posting agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember West?
Yes.
Councilmember Bott?
Yes.
Councilmember Edge?
Yes.
Councilmember Martorana?
Aye.
Mayor Lund?
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes unanimously.
And Connie, would you establish the resolution number under 3D,
That's resolution 2015-01.
21501? Okay. Good, okay.
What's that? Do you want to go to closed session? Okay, I'll bring it up for closed session. The next one's going to be for number 4, for appointment of city attorney. We have it on as a closed session. If there's no need for us to go into closed session, or if anybody would like to go into closed session to further questions or talk about it. Everybody be all right?
Any comment from George Thatcher? Or
Well, if you're not going into closed session, and you're moving on to 2B or 4B then?
Yes. Yeah, we'll move to 4B on that.
George Thatcher, I used to sit over there. I provided a memo to you just describing to you why, or not why, but that I'm kind of backing away from day-to-day representation of clients and spending more of my time in the office. But we're recommending that, and we're requesting that under the terms of the agreement we have with the city, Wellington Law Offices, that you appoint Deb Mall as your new city attorney. And in the memorandum, I've described her experience and the fact that she's a particularly well-experienced municipal lawyer, and she's especially experienced in and an expert in land use law and personnel matters. And she'll, in the course of her, if she is appointed in the course of her tenure here, she will serve you very well. There is a resolution in the packet as well, and also an amendment to the agreement, the contract for service of city attorney services. And there are about 3 or 4 modifications made to that to accommodate number one, to accommodate the appointment of Deb as city attorney, and also there's one provision in there for office hours that I also took the opportunity to change, because we don't do that. We did it for a couple of days, way back when, 6 years ago, or 8 years ago when we started, and there just wasn't any need for it, so decided to remove that and make it optional only. So with that, and I do thank you and the city and all the council members before you for the opportunity to serve the city. It's been a great experience for me, and you've gone through leadership changes, and I think you've landed on one that will doing a great job for you, and I'm glad to see that. So I'll be out here. Deborah likes to take trips, so I imagine some of them will happen on Tuesdays. She'll have me come out and substitute for her, so come on and have my usual tostada before the meeting and come on over.
Good to see you, Kurt.
Yeah, we appreciate everything you've done. And how many years you've been practicing now?
Well, I've been with U8. I've been practicing for 45 or 46.
Kind of reminds me of somebody else around here that won't quit, huh? We appreciate everything you've done for
Thank
us.
you very much.
Anybody else would like to? Yes, with George.
Public comment?
Well, welcome aboard, Deborah. Appreciate it. All right.
it would be appropriate then is to adopt a resolution 215-02.
Do you have?
Amending the contract between the city and Wellington Law Office and appointing Deborah Mall as city attorney.
Okay. Before we finish that resolution, we want to open up for public comment. Anybody? Any public comment? Any cards on that? Okay. All right. So we'll bring it back to what resolution will that be?
215-02.
02. Are we going to read that resolution?
Or
Okay,
discussion?
appreciate it.
Discussion?
Discussion.
I don't have
Well,
anything, but
everybody was. I kind of looked left and right. And
okay.
All I can say is that Robert and I met with George and Deborah. We're pleased with
Great.
Deborah's got a lot of experience and got another thing going for her. Roger admires her very much.
That happens so seldom,
No, I mean, as far as the work, it's been very good. So,
I've never seen her blush.
Till now.
See the things you're gonna have to suffer through with a bunch of dirty old men up there. Well, 4 men. Anyways, I'd like to present a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista approving amendment to the contract of employment for City Attorney, providing for the appointment of Deborah A. Mall as City Attorney.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember West,
Yeah.
Councilmember Black,
Yes?
Councilmember Marshall-Leonard,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Edge,
Aye.
Mayor Lund.
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes unanimously.
All right, congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Adios.
Let's go and get that tostada.
That's why we wanted it first on the agenda.
Okay, so we're going to move along to number 5 here, presentations, informational items and reports. We're going to hear on A is a presentation for refinancing 2008 COP loan, Cameron Waste, Southwest Securities.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, Cameron Wiest. Actually, of the Wiest Law Firm, not Southwest Securities. That would be another member of the team that is being recommended for the refinancing process, just for the record. But it's nice to be here this evening and to give some good news, I think. The market for interest rates for the municipal market right now are at all-time lows. You have outstanding debt north of $10 million. We can go into specifics in a minute. I just want to kind of give a summary and then we can kind of drill down a little bit on this. But at interest rates that are hovering on an average basis above 5% or right at 5%. The market for your bonds, if you were to go out today, would be in the neighborhood of 3.5%. That differential is quantifiable, and that's what we've done here for you in terms of what would be referred to as cash flow savings. And we can talk about those numbers as well. But there is an opportunity. We don't know when the opportunity might retract because interest rates rise, or if the interest rates might go a little bit lower. We do know they're at all-time lows at this point. So our firm is a municipal bond counsel firm. We're a firm of attorneys that do nothing but public finance. That's our specialty, and everything that surrounds public finance. And I've been doing this for over 23 years, so about almost half of what Roger was saying. So that I was tipping my cap, but I've been doing it for quite a while, and have seen in the last 3 years this market. Everybody has been saying, well, the rates are going to go up, the rates are going to go up, the rates are going to go up, and they've just amazingly stayed low. We don't know when that's going to disappear. So right now, all we can say is we have a window of opportunity, and there is an ability to call those bonds out of the market and replace them with new bonds, basically just like a mortgage for your home. If you were going to refinance a home, you'd go out, find a lender, pay your old mortgage off, enter into a new agreement, hopefully at a lower interest rate, save some money. So that's the concept. To do that, however, in the municipal marketplace, you're dealing with tax-exempt bonds, and so therefore you need a securities lawyer that understands how to issue a tax opinion to IRS qualified, SEC qualified, and to also navigate the kind of process that it takes to get through that with the City Council, of course legislatively with the City Council, then also from a market perspective of the underwriter, the buyer of the bonds, and also the other team members, the financial advisors and so forth, that need to be able to give opinions for the IRS to say, yes, we've checked all the boxes, you've got a qualified tax-exempt obligation to replace your old obligation. So the process then is tonight is to consider it. If you like what you hear and you're convinced that this is the time to strike, then you would adopt the resolution that's before you, appointing the financing team. That then, along with staff, who's also named in the resolution, we would then roll up our sleeves, we go out and we go out to bid. to the marketplace. So we're going to put this out to bid to banks, financial institutions, underwriters out there, and it could be, we go out to 25 to 50 different institutions to get you the lowest rate. The rates that you have in front of you are ballpark rates based on comparables that have closed within the last week and a half to 2 weeks. So they're estimates based on real market conditions, but they are not ultimately what you're going to end up with. Hopefully you'll end up, if the market stays the way it is, something better. We don't want to go in and tell you something that you can't rely upon, and so therefore what you have in front of you, I think, is conservative. However, if the market changes, interest rates go up, it's no longer conservative, it's just the opposite. So I throw out the caveat so that you're well aware of what we're up against as your team to move this forward in a rapid fashion. Is, once if you give the green light, then we have to kind of say, we're not going to mess around with this. We're really going to try to move and execute on it for you. So I guess we can go into the numbers a little bit. I know you all are going to have some questions, and so I think we'll just go through the numbers right now, and then maybe go into some questions and answers here. So the outstanding principal amount of your bonds are $10,405,000. However, the bonds are not legally redeemable until 2018. So what we have to do is a process what's called advance refunding. Advance refunding means we have to take, if we take the new money, we put it to an escrow. So instead of like a mortgage where you pay it off on day one, that money, you have to raise enough money to be able to put it in that escrow and have that escrow make your payments for you for the next couple of years until your first call date on those bonds, your first legal call date. Because when you issue the bonds in 2008, most bond issues have what's called a 10-year call protection. So here we are, 10 years later, when you can first call them out of the market is 2018. So the escrow is set aside with enough money calculated to be sufficient with the interest earnings it's going to earn. It's going to be invested in what's called slugs, which are state and local government series. It's an IRS accepted obligation. It's backed by the U.S. Treasury market. It's basically a U.S. obligation. It's invested, earns interest in that escrow fund with a major national bank, probably Bank of New York, since they're your existing trustee. And that escrow fund is legally set aside in a depository trust account with that escrow, those slugs, as the security for that escrow. It's calculated so that those mature each semi-annually to make your existing payments on your existing 2008 bonds for 2 years until you can legally call them. And at the end of 2 years, it has enough money remaining in there to completely pay off the old issue. Okay, that's what's called an advanced refunding technique. But you can imagine, because you're investing that escrow fund in short-term money, it's only going to earn less than 0.5% in there. Meanwhile, you're still paying your old bonds at that rate of 5%. And therefore, that's why you're seeing a par amount that's higher than your present par amount, because you have to overcome what we call negative arbitrage. The fund actually has to be funded with more money than what you actually owe on that fund. Now, all the numbers then wash out still because your interest rate is so low in comparison to what you have now. The savings overcome that little bit of negative for 2 years, and they're able to produce the kind of savings that I'm going to tell you about here. So, right now, based on an interest rate, an average interest rate, based on comparables in the market that have closed the last couple of weeks, similar credit, an A- underwriting rating, your true interest cost is right around 3.8% projected. At that level, you're able to produce a cash flow savings of approximately $107,000 a year. That's after the cost of the negative arbitrage in the escrow, after all cost of issuance. You're still going to come out with a positive number of $107,000 a year for 29 years. The total number is actually $3,122,000 in total cash flow savings. Of that number, you have an existing reserve fund of $775,000 and some change. We take that reserve fund, that's your money, even though it's sitting in a fund. We don't want to call that savings because it really is your money right now. You can't get to it for 30 years. It's sitting there, it's earning very little. Under our proposal, we're saying let's don't let that reserve just sit and earn 0.5%. Let's put it into the whole mixture and therefore drive your cash flow savings up. In other words, you're kind of sharing over 29 years the $775,000. That's what we're doing. So what I said is the total savings are $3,122,000, but of that $775,000 is your money right now. We're just going to get back to you a little more quickly. So if you take the $3,122,000 less the $775,000, your true savings is $2,347,000. But you are truly going to benefit from getting that reserve fund early in two ways. One is you're going to get it back now. It helps the ratepayers now. You're spreading it over 29 years. Instead of waiting on $775,000 for 29 years, it's earning 0.5%, and your bonds are yielding 5%. Why not put it into this, pull down the issue, and get that money back to your ratepayers earlier? So that's kind of what we've done here. The rest of the numbers, we can go into details. Most of it's all escrow, sizing requirements, and most of the computer run stuff. But those are the primary numbers that I have in the report here.
Cameron,
yeah.
Cameron, if I can just make a comment to the council.
Absolutely.
When I first discovered this and looked at the original thing, I recognized that we could not entertain refinancing till 2018 until that there. And I got, as the Federal Reserves got away from this quantitative easement, I got a little bit nervous. Rates are historically low, but I don't know what 3 years from now is going to be. And that was why we contacted Cameron to see, is there ability for us to call these out earlier, maybe pay for that, and then experience this lower rate. And I think that's where I brought in Cameron to say, can we do this? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we do it all the time. It is, I mean, not all the time, but anytime you run into a scenario where you have a lockout, a call protection on your bonds, that's the only thing you can do legally. And there is a negative cost to that escrow, but if the market's so low, if the market is such that it is, you can overcome that. Not always, but in this case, you're able to. Not for me. But
That taken care of.
I'm happy to answer any questions or go. I can even, if you'd like me to just talk, I'm good at that too. I can filibuster you all night if you want to.
Okay. Well, maybe we can do a few questions and then we'll keep moving along with it.
Okay.
Does the term of the bond affect the interest rate that the investors would pay? In other words, what I'm working towards, I saw a figure in here that we're going to realize cash savings of $66,000 a year. What if we don't take the cash savings and shorten the term of the obligation? Does that affect the interest that the investors would pay?
Sure. It works both ways. You can either shorten it and it might help the rate a little bit. You can lengthen it, it might hurt the rate a little bit. The rate that you have right now is based on the existing term. We just wanted to give you apples to apples comparison so that you have something to base it upon that's relevant. But you can certainly play with those kinds of things a little bit. There's no question. The one thing that I always like to at least mention is that you had a rate study done. Those rates have been based on your existing debt, the length that it is. The ratepayers, as you well know, the ratepayers are generational, and so to the extent that you're financing assets that are going to benefit other future generations, or after generally after 15 to 20 years, you're talking about getting out there into somebody else is paying the debt. So rate studies usually take that into account when they're doing their analysis, and so they scale it to match the useful life of the asset, or attempt to do that to some degree. To the extent you shorten, you're basically taking their analysis and saying, we're doing our own analysis and saying, we're going to keep the debt, we're not going to charge you anymore, we're going to keep the debt the same, we're going to keep the same payments you've been making, but we're going to shorten that term. Therefore, down the road, you're going to get a benefit. Somebody in 25 or 26 years is going to get a benefit of a couple of years free. And you have to, weigh that, of course, and this is why you're the city council, and we're just up here talking about options, is weigh that against having the rate study remain sacrosanct in the way that it was originally set up, to match the useful life of the asset, and therefore have the savings be passed on over that life of that rate study. And I'm not intimating that the rate study would not meet the nexus test. If you did that, of course it would, because you're still keeping your debt level the same. You're not increasing it. If you increased it, then you'd run into a foul of some problems there. But it is an option, and we can certainly run iterations on that. The thing is, we need some guidance to know if that's going to be a relevant option tonight, so that hopefully we can bring that back to you next meeting and certainly talk about it a little further.
The 66,000 has restrictions on it. We can't spend that on just anything. It would have to, I guess it's enterprise funds, and so we would have to keep it within
That's correct.
whatever needs we have for the enterprise system.
That's correct. It would definitely stay with the enterprise. It is a water and wastewater issue, so there's a pro rata share between the two. And whatever that share is, yes, they both are going to share in that pro rata allocation between the two funds. No, it wouldn't inure to the benefit of the general fund.
Right now it's a 55-45 split from water to sewer. Sewer is 45, water is 55.
Are we paying our fines through the enterprise or through the general?
Through the enterprise. The $3,000 a month to the Regional Water Quality Control Board comes out of the enterprise account.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is, why don't we stretch it out longer and reduce the rates? Because the lifetime of the sewer water is, what, 50 years, 60 years? And so why would we finance it all? I mean, in essence, what happened is we didn't do anything. The previous decision makers kicked the can down the road until the Regional Water Quality Control Board said, you got to do something, put a gun to our head. We did it, and we got it paid off in, what, 2035. Why don't we bump it out as long as we can? I know it'll cost the city more, but the ratepayer would come down, because why would the ratepayer, and I'm not going to be paying rates that long because I'm old, but why would we burden this section of ratepayers with fixing things that were wrong in the past and won't need to be fixed in the future?
Yeah. Well, and
last that thing is saying, it really doesn't matter what it costs the city. I know the city will pay more, but when I buy cars, I look at my payment. What are my payments? And so if the payment goes down and over a longer period of time, it'll be spread out over the ratepayers.
there is the counter effect, though. The longer you go, the higher the interest rate, and the longer you pay that higher interest rate. And so your savings at these levels are based on just apples to apples, matching the term. I
understand
don't know, without doing the numbers again and stretching out by another couple of years, what that would mean in terms of a higher, would it be, right now we said 3.8, would that mean 3.9 or 4.0? I mean, within two or three, so there's a diminishing returns at some point. I don't know what that is, and I haven't run that analysis.
But I would be very curious as to how, if our job is to get the rates as low as we can and spread it over as many people as possible, it seems we got to look at that.
The other issue there, Cameron, is that there is a finite capacity in that plant, and this is for 29 years, and I've looked at the capacity and the improvements needed for the effluent to treat, and it appears as though 25 to 30 years that you're going to have to go to a bond issue to expand that plant. Now, if we have a debt that lingers on, it's going to be hard to finance that improvement 25 to 30 years from now. And I think it's imminent.
But won't this come in impact fees from development? We don't need it if we're not going to expand the city.
Well, they've been stopping us so far. So we don't know if we're going to have that housing expanding or not, but every day that treatment plant is getting used and it's weathering. So we know that we're going to have to, at one time, and who's to say with the pipes through this town, too, in 30 years?
Not 30,
Seems like-
in 60, 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
What we put in is going to last that long. That's
And there
only,
is an IRS regulation too. If you were to look to extend, we'd have to look at the useful life. You'd have to really investigate the useful life, because IRS will not allow you to finance past the
I understand
useful
that.
life. So yeah, let me just put that out.
Couple comments. Number one, you have to understand, this is a fixed rate loan. The loan we have now is an adjustable. The term of 29 years, we haven't stretched anything out. It's not like you refinance your house and stretch it out to 30 years, da-da-da.
At a locked-in rate. Yeah.
And what I'm looking at is the second memo here says $107,000 a year in savings. Right. Now with that kind of money, all this loan paid for was sewer and water lines coming 3rd, Monterey, up 4th Street, and over to well 3. You've got all this other infrastructure, like a section of 5th Street that is, we're going to have to get in there because it's actually coming down. It's collapsing. There's going to have to be a water line put in there, and then of course 5th Street's going to have to be repaid. Well, a couple of these $107,000, we can afford to do that. Right now, we can't really afford to do it. I like the idea, and maybe I'm conservative, but I like the idea of it only running another 29 years, not spreading it out to say 40 years or whatever, and getting this lower interest rate, which is fixed. I don't know if the previous administration or council even realized that it was an adjustable rate loan, and you just don't do that anymore. But I'm looking at the savings and what we can do with that savings. Like you said, it goes into the water and sewer. So somewhere along the line, I would think that a majority of the water lines in this city are going to have to be replaced. It's like, I couldn't believe it when they dug up Tuolumne Street, when they came down 3rd a little bit, and then it came down Tuolumne to 4th Street. That was clay tile in there. I mean, and it was 13 feet down there. I couldn't believe that somebody actually got down in there and put, 3-foot sections of clay tile in there. And I think that's all over town.
Yeah, there's a lot of the city that's still pretty brittle.
As far as we're going to have to do something about additional water supply, whether it's, it's going to have to be new wells. And so I'm just looking at this. And I don't know, is there any point in time when you can lock the rate?
Yeah, but we have to get through next, we have to bring it back to you for document approval. And that's going to take a week and a half to 2 weeks to prepare all that at the minimum. So we're looking at a council meeting in the future. Your next one might be a little rushed to make that one, so it'll probably be a month out. And then we can lock within about 2 weeks of that meeting is about the quickest we can actually push this thing.
You'd have a number that would be lockable at that time then?
Yeah, about 45 days.
Because it could change.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I could see where we could even have a special city council meeting.
Yeah.
If we could get I'm invested in the stock market, and I got and everything, and it makes me nervous what's going on right now. And if we can get a lock at anywhere under 4%, I think we're in pretty good shape.
And the length of the term doesn't determine whether it's fixed or variable.
No, the length of the term, variable can go out, the same as your fixed, and
But
it
it's
just
a
in
fixed
today's
rate.
market, the fixed rate is really the way to go, as you're probably aware. The variable
good
market
insured
is just
amount.
fraught with
Yeah.
danger right now.
I can see Jim's point. We don't have, we have one scenario before us. There's, Rick's suggested a scenario, Jim suggested a scenario, but it's virtually impossible for us to compare because we don't have insight into what those might look like. Presumably, by investing the savings in, the rate might come down. Probably not enough of a term change to affect the rate positively in our, it sounds to me.
I do enough of this, I can eyeball it for you. Right now, I can tell you that you'd be looking at about 3 years off,
Yeah.
roughly, give or take 6 months to a year.
Gotcha.
And the rate for this is a 29-year financing versus a 26-year financing is going to be, you know, maybe 10 to 15 basis points, which is
Okay.
1/10 of a percent.
Yeah.
A quarter would be in the apps, and I don't even think you can get a quarter
Okay.
extra.
And if we added 10 years to the term,
10 years, yeah, you're looking at, off the top of the head, you're looking at another quarter of what you're saving here. So you're looking at 25 to 35 extra $1,000 per year doing that, but that would be your cash flow differential, but you're adding a
I understand that, but that's not
Yeah.
to Jim's
Yeah.
point, that's,
And that's
so 25, how much did you say?
maybe 25.
Okay,
roughly.
so
Yeah.
I would say that that's not worth it. That's not enough of a differential in my opinion.
Well, and what I
Yeah.
learned today is that this bond payment is not for the work that was done. It's to get ready for next work and more work in addition. You said
No,
that we could get some of that money in the enterprise fund and pay off
Oh,
work
yeah.
on Fifth
Well,
The
Street.
savings would go into the enterprise.
Yeah,
For future stuff. That,
so we're not just financing the work that we had done, we're financing for future work.
right.
That
Yeah.
changes it.
Well, and then the other thing I looked at was, presuming that this 100,000 a year is valid and we can save that much money and we can do some work with it, maybe somewhere along the line, we could actually bring our water and sewer rates back down. You know, I mean, I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there, but,
That
you know.
becomes a budget decision. We decide
But
that
if-
what we want to do with that 107, if we actually see it, then we can decide if we want to lower rates or bank it for, improvements later. I think that's certainly what I had
everybody's for
was
it.
thinking.
Well, the thing I'm concerned about is that with this adjustable, the loan we have now, we may have to raise rates.
Well, I understand that. I understand getting away from the
Yeah.
adjustable,
Yeah.
getting into a fix, but the term isn't gonna decide whether it's adjustable or fixed. It's gonna be
Right.
adjustable or fixed. And what I was saying is before, when I looked at it, that this money was to pay for work that was done, why don't we spread that out? But if this money is to get us ready to do something on Fifth Street or something else, then I'm not gonna argue with you on that.
I have,
And again, I think the resolution that Cameron has submitted to you is it's just a resolution authorizing the commencement of the proceedings for the refinancing.
Yeah,
So
this
that
is
then
not
he
a-
can go and start to there and then report back to you.
And I don't think there's a question on that.
Yeah.
So we'll have options on that then. Okay. Go ahead.
two questions. What's the timeline then? Would you describe again the timeline for coming back and assuming we pass the resolution tonight?
Yeah. It's not going to be the next meeting. Well,
That's fine.
You're bi-monthly, yeah, so it would not quite, we wouldn't be in time for the next meeting. It would be a chance that 3 weeks out, if you're willing to hold a special meeting, we can be back before you, rather than waiting the full month. We could save a week, maybe a week and a half. That would be my best estimate at this point.
And
So- Okay, go ahead.
who do you represent as an attorney in this process?
The city.
So your responsibility is to us to figure out if there's pitfalls that we're not,
Yeah, it's an unusual role. I mean, I'm hired by the city, I represent the city. I have a loyalty to make sure the transaction it has no fraud associated with it. I'm also, it's kind of a tripartite relationship because I have to protect the investors. They're going to buy this. They rely on bond counsel's opinions and so forth. So there's a duty for me to make sure I do the right thing in all stages for the investors and also for the IRS and SEC. They're looking at all this as well. But I am your counsel, so I'm at your disposal and
Sure.
So forth. So
Well, I think the reason I asked, and the reason I'm going to ask Roger about referrals, is that to I think Tony's point, I don't think the council at the time of the original bond issue understood that it was a variable rate. I've talked to a couple of them, and they do not appear to have any understanding. And if that comes up,
You know,
we want to know who.
I didn't want to have to chime in on that, but I will now because the word variable rate has been brought up a few times, and I just want to make sure that that doesn't get too far out there where
Sure.
there's a misconception about what those existing bonds are. They are in fact fixed rate. They have what's called serialized maturities, and all that means is that each year has a different interest rate associated with that year. So the way a public offer transaction works is that if you were to go out and what you did is you sold these bonds to the world. Every single investor that's out there that has an account, an electronic account with DTC, can go in and buy these bonds, and even now in the secondary market you can find these bonds out there. And so what happens is you are issuing those bonds in $5,000 increments. Each bond increment within a maturity. So within a maturity, let's say you have 2015, for example, and it's got an interest rate of 3% associated with it. You can go into your local brokerage account and say, I'd like to buy those two. I'd like to buy $5,000 worth of those 2015 maturities at 3%. They'll write you up a ticket and you can buy those. You can also say, well, I'd like to buy 10,000 of the 2020 maturities because they bear 3.25%. Okay, I'll write you up that ticket. And then so on up the chain of the serialized maturities. So what happens is what looks like a variable rate is really serialized fixed rates over the course of time, which blend to a rate, blend to an all-in rate.
And so our
there's a cap.
our payment, the payment schedule.
They don't slide.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that nothing ever slides or changes in your bond issue. It's just a matter of each year has a different associated interest rate. And so what you have to remember is that within each year you got a different rate. But ultimately, over all your 29 years, you're paying each one of those interest rates per maturity. And so if you look at that on a blended basis, that gets you to about a 5% blended rate because short-term rates are always worth less than long-term rates. So when you look at your yield curve on your serialized scale, you look at your long end, those are the most important because the net present value of money brings those back to a greater value today. But basically, you do not have variable rates. You have fixed rates. Yeah.
So the payment schedule that we've seen a couple of times that is approximately $770,000 per year, that's not going to change.
Exactly. That's a fixed number for here to ever.
Okay.
You know what you have, and it's never going to change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Referrals. Did you guys check this guy out?
Well, I think we talked with Cameron, and he's done a lot with Wendy over in the Monterey Bay Harbor, and you can kind of be like to inform the council what you did over there,
I'd love to grow about myself.
and we talked with Linda, and she was
Good.
very comfortable with it.
Okay.
I worked with Linda McIntyre just recently with Moss Landing. Over the course of the last year and a half, she had a complex transaction for the harbor. There were, I think, I'm going to get this a little bit wrong, 5 or 6 existing transactions over there, and they were all different shapes and sizes and different prepayment dates and so forth and so on. And we just slowly, through an evolution of working together with staff, devised a plan to get all that coalesced into a single refinancing with one lender. And it worked out where she's very happy. She emailed me the day she saw we were on the agenda. She said, hey, I saw you coming up on the agenda. Great job. If you want to use me, go ahead, feel free. You saved us over $20,000 a year. And for their debt was a little much smaller than what you have here. But so that's one issue. I've worked locally with the city of Pacific Grove a couple months ago. We refinanced their golf course. I also refinanced a wastewater issue for them recently. The Santa Cruz Port District refinanced several of their obligations, including their pension fund. And they're very happy. They got a free dredge out of it, which is about a $4 million dredge. So they're happy. Anyway, I mean, just around the area, I've done a fair amount of work. So
Where are your offices?
in Scotts Valley.
Okay, that's all I have.
Again, I'd just like to take the look at what we could save by extending it out. It may not be worth it, and then go there. And also, if all that savings does go into the enterprise fund. So it's
Yeah, Roger, that was definite. That does go into the enterprise fund. Okay, and And our loan, we cannot touch it till 2018?
That would be the first time when we could renegotiate that, yeah.
Well-
218, that's,
Yeah,
mhm.
if you were to do the refinancing, all the money, because of the advanced refunding technique that we use and the IRS accepts, we legally defease your issue from day one. When this new deal is done, legally nobody can look to that bond issue any longer to you to make that payment. The escrow is the sole source, and it's in all the documents. Legally, you are off the hook. It is an absolute legal technique called advanced refunding technique. And so what happens at escrow, which has an accounting firm that does all the math, it's called a verification report. They do the verification of the slug, how much the slugs, the treasuries, how much they yield, when your payments are made semi-annually on that escrow fund, and then it has enough in the residual when you can first call those bonds in 2018 to make that entire $10 million or whatever it is at that time payment. But what the city council needs to understand is that we issue an opinion that says you no longer have any responsibility to those old bondholders, which last thing in the world you want is to pay 2 sets of bonds. So, but that's a long way to answer your question, but I want to make sure that's clear that is what happens.
If we pass this resolution tonight to proceed, could you do a quick analysis of what Jim is saying? Is it to extend it to see and quantify the savings so we can compare that? Okay.
Yes. I'll be prepared with. I'll be prepared to update these numbers the way they are, and also with an extended maturity.
Roger, so there's not savings that come back into the enterprise fund, it's just money that doesn't go out of the enterprise fund for payments.
That's correct.
So it's in the enterprise fund, it's just reduced payments out of the enterprise fund.
What would be let's see, our next city council meeting is on the 17th of February.
So we need by the
Would
9th? We need to have something by the 9th?
Well,
that's what I
agree
was thinking.
too.
I was wondering if you could have something by the 10th of February?
I think,
That's your next meeting, huh?
No, our next meeting is the
February
17th.
yeah.
But if we need to agendize it, we need the
No, I understand
time for
the
that.
agenda items, but what is the second meeting in the month? What day
We
is
don't
it?
have a second
We
meeting,
just
we
have
be
one
meeting a month.
Oh, that's a short one. Okay, I got it. That's going to be, that's because there's a lot of heavy lifting to do
Okay.
between now and then. To make your agenda in time, the 9th would be about when you need it, the agenda?
No.
No.
What you had thrown out the idea of 3 weeks, I think, right? Is that what you're getting
Well,
at?
I was saying, I didn't know if we wanted to have a special meeting to go over what the different scenarios and then finalize it on the 17th.
I can have the scenarios adaptable. In other words, the documents that you would approve that evening won't really depend on the variations, the two different scenarios. They're going to be the same documents regardless of the scenario. So it's not going to change the work product that we're doing it. So we can do everything at one meeting. We don't need 2 meetings, but what I'm suggesting is that I think that to make that 17th meeting is going to be it's going to push the team a little too much, and I don't want to jeopardize any kind of work product or anything. And so if it were possible to have a special meeting the week after that, maybe that next week on the 24th, is that a Thursday? 24th?
Tuesday,
That's a Tuesday? I
yes.
think that's 25th, maybe. In that week sometime would be optimal, but I know that's asking council to try to.
Well, I think it's flexible enough to where if tonight we adopt this thing here and you'll keep me and Wendy appraised,
Yes.
and if everything is going along good and we can make
Okay.
the 17th, that's fine. If not, then you let me know and then we'll put in motion a special meeting.
Continue
That's good with me.
the 17th to
Yeah.
whenever.
Yeah.
Put a 24th, save the date, just in case.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll consider adopting resolution 2195-03. Appoint a financial team for recommendation of the refinancing of the 2008 debt obligation of the city of San Juan Bautista.
Is that the revised? Are you looking at the?
This is the one in the packet. I don't know.
This is the revised. Shall I read it?
I'll get this one here.
Again, I'd point out to the council there that you're authorizing the representatives as the mayor, the city manager, city treasurer, and another person authorized by the city council to act on behalf of the city as your financial team.
So,
Of section 3.
yes.
And
Yes.
I would recommend that other person we would probably include is Wendy Cunningham, our account auditor, our clerk.
So we'll add her to that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do I have a...
I move that we adopt Resolution 2015-03, a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista authorizing commencement of proceedings to refinance outstanding 2008 water and wastewater revenue bonds and appointing the necessary consultants in connection therewith.
Second?
No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember West?
Yeah.
Councilmember Bott?
Yes?
Councilmember Martirena?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Rich?
Aye.
Mayor Lund?
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Well, thank you very much, and I look forward to returning, hopefully the 17th, but if not, I'll be in touch with you.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time. Okay, we'll go along to item B, monthly financial statements and treasury report. I don't see Chuck out in the crowd.
Chuck is ill. He's got a touch of the flu, so he won't be here tonight. You know.
Do you have a summary or?
Kind of a summary here. You know, the general fund has got a fund balance of negative 289. You know, it's just not a good sign. But the change in fund balance of 70,000 this time last year, so it's going a little bit behind schedule. The enterprise fund resulted in a loss of 42,000 as compared to a profit of 27. So that's a good $65,000 swing, you know, one way or the other. That's primarily due to where we've been encouraging some drought resistance and less water usage. Overall cash flow in the revolving and depreciation is a negative 26. And that's largely because we still made that $440,000 semi-annual debt payment, you know. Cash balance on hand is restricted, and it's still positive at about 2.5. And then we get into our revenues, where I've intentionally asked each of the departments to stabilize the general fund by kind of cutting back on some of the expenditures. They were at 645, which is more than we budgeted by 23, but I've put off some major improvements in the general fund so that we can have a net savings at the end of the thing. The enterprise fund revenues was 839, which was lower than budgeted by 44,000. Again, the drought conditions where we encourage less money coming into particularly with the water, is resulting in that. And we're achieving about an 8% reduction in revenues in the water department, not the 20% that the governor pushed, you know. Again, our expenditures in there, I've intentionally withheld commencing on some of those. However, the water improvements that we're doing on the wells are a necessity, and we're moving forward there. But the other capital expenditures in those enterprise and sewer funds, we're just holding off until the latter part of the year, coming along in the spring, to see how our cash balance is. Kind of gives you an overlook. Was there somebody that wanted to speak? No. No speaking.
Roger, on that FEAR engineering, that was a lift
Oh,
station,
this
right?
on the warrant list, yeah. Here was the electrical engineer that we've asked to do the electrical outlet for the electrical panel for well number 3.
And the SSL law firm, that was the court lawsuit?
That was the lawsuit that, for the
14,000.
formula business, and then we negotiated from $80,000 down to $14,000.
So the final one, that was
Yes,
14.
yeah.
Yeah, the only,
And we would,
Brian,
I'd compliment Deborah for achieving that. She worked pretty hard to negotiate that down.
that's the auditor.
Oh, God.
And then I guess this might be for judicial data systems. Are we getting any ticket money?
That's our payment to them, and I asked Trish to kind of profile that for me, because I kept worrying is not only are we paying judicial, but we also have to pay the county the $12 per thing, and how much money is coming there. And it was a net negative, wasn't it, Trish? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty much a wash. $100 a month to JDS, flat, no matter how many tickets come in. Then we get the revenues from the tickets, the citations, and then we have to pay, what did you say, $12.50?
$12.50, yeah, the county, yeah.
$12.50 per citation.
A courthouse replacement.
To the courthouse.
Yeah, yeah, mhm.
So if 3 tickets were written or received revenues on 3 tickets, then 3 times $12.50 goes out to the courthouse. Most of our tickets, I think, are about $65, except for, handicapped is about $200, $215, I think. So.
Well, we have to do it. I just wondered if we were losing money on it.
And I just call your attention to some of the expenditures there, and as you'll see, for like the Smith and Enright landscaping, that's all reimbursable out of an assessment district. And then you'll see a lot of Hatch and Monts, and these are reimbursable from doing environmental work for the subdivisions, and that's all reimbursed by an agreement with the developer. Mhm.
All right, any more questions?
No.
I'm fine.
Okay. Move along to the sheriff's report. I don't see anybody out there for that report. We'll put that off in case we have Captain Taylor come in. Fire chief's report. I don't see Chief O'Connor here either. I do see Chief Fox, if he has anything you'd like to come up and comment with. Everything's okay? All right, we'll move along to the library report. And I think that one's gonna,
DD left.
she had already left there. Maybe we can get lucky on the next one, the administration report.
Just some Public Works Department, we've completed the lift station and it's operational, and now we're working with the property owner there for the connection reimbursements and the well agreement, and we'll be reporting to you on that. Code enforcement, Matt's been doing a good job and staying on top of it, and we're following it. We're still waiting for the signed ordinance, and there's a little bit of additional work we have to do before we bring that back to you. The planning department, we're making some headway on the general plan, and Matt's spent a tremendous amount of time editing and getting that thing ready for the public review process. And you want to kind of talk to him about it, Dan?
Yeah, so I spent about a week and a half getting the background report and general plan in glistening, shiny, perfect form for the last public meeting, hopefully. I think we're going to try to do that February 12th. I haven't nailed that down yet. I'm working on a venue because a lot of people said they didn't like the acoustics of the community center. So I got a number for someone at the VFW that I'm going to call, and then I also emailed the school district. I haven't heard back from them about possibly using one of their spaces. So I'll let you know as soon as I know that. And then now, having done that, I'm on to the EIR for the general plan, and I got a very rough draft right before Christmas of Chapter 4 of it. Chapter 4 is sort of the beef of a environmental impact report. I went over it. I didn't do any grammatical stuff because that would have just taken way too long because it was, like I said, a really rough draft. But I made comments on it, sent it back to them, and then they're going to be coming up this weekend and are going to sit down with Roger and myself and discuss sort of the mitigation measures and other things. So I think we're up to speed on where we want to be with that, and we'll keep you posted.
All right, that'd be great.
And last, I'd just like to report that our nitrates have decreased substantially. Jan Schweiker from the Water Drinking Division of the state gave us a letter, and we confirmed it with a letter from Darrell Wong, the health department, where now the restaurants can serve tap water to their customers, as well as the school and daycare centers.
What was that number if we have for the nitrates?
The maximum amount is 45 milligrams per liter, and we're now operating right around to between 23 and 25.
23 and 25. Okay, we're doing good. We've been working on this a while, and it's starting to come around.
Can I ask one question? On general plan, should the council members be at that? Should we
Legally,
wait for you to present it to us?
Would I like you there, or are you legally allowed to be there?
Well,
Yeah.
just an idea. I mean, should
Well, if it's noticed, like Matt says, as a public meeting, then the majority of the council members are allowed to be there so long as you don't talk about city business and come to some kind of concurrence between yourself.
okay.
Just for observing and listening.
I have a question on the general plan. I thought Cal Poly was supposed to put this together. Why are we having to finish it off?
They are. I'm just doing the final edits at the very end for them.
It's all packaged and everything. What we found is that there was a little bit of inconsistencies, and even when the commission looked at it, they said that it lacked a little bit more embellishment of certain things, and we wanted to just polish it off before we. So it's kind of just fine tuning is what it is.
Okay.
All right. Roger, we have anything more for administrative reports?
No.
Okay. All right, we'll move it to public meetings and city council committee reports. We have some new council members who got to attend those meetings.
I didn't know the alternate wasn't supposed to attend.
No, you can attend. I wanted you to be there. I was just surprised to see you there.
Oh, well, I got a lot to say about putting the Highway 25 on a concurrence and. What?
I went
Was
to
everybody
the
looking at me? What'd I do?
I went to the intergovernmental meeting in Hollister. I was very encouraged to see that it seems to be a very collaborative bunch. The focus was primarily on the Office of Emergency Services and some work. They're going to come to us with a request for a resolution or ordinance to include them in the naming of streets. Their concerns over duplication of street names. I don't think it will probably affect us in any way as things stand here today, but going forward, they'd like us to review any new street names with them, those sorts of things. So it was a productive meeting. I went to the AMBAG meeting, also very productive, good introduction to the larger group. There was not really anything that covers us. Today there was an Energy Watch meeting, part of the AMBAG group. I did not attend, but Matt did, and he'll be reporting back to us with some more information on solar projects, potential solar projects within the city. That's all I have. Tony?
One thing that's interesting about the street names,
Uh,
Hollister has a 4th in Monterey.
yeah.
San Juan Bautista has a 4th in Monterey. And there's one ready mix company over there. You don't want to call them until deliver at 4th in Monterey, because they'll be driving up and down Monterey Street in Hollister looking for it. But, anyway, COG meeting, we're getting somewhere with the traffic calming with COG and everybody, and the COG staff is going to set up a joint meeting with Caltrans, COG, and us sometime in February to just kind of go over what it is we're looking for, or what, and also possibly what they can offer at a reasonable cost. Caltrans is still saying we're going to pay for it, so I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there. And then as far as the Highway 25 thing, you had to be going to those meetings for quite a while to understand what Hollister desperately wants to widen 25 to 4 lanes. And actually, it was just Anthony and I before. We said, that's fine. Do you want to tell us where you're going to get the money to do it? And they never could really, they didn't have a plan, they didn't have a cost, and they didn't know where they're going to. Now, they've kind of swung around a little bit, and they're going to try to do a sales tax thing. And both Anthony and I told them, I said, well, the only way you're going to get this side of the county to vote for a sales tax is you're going to have to do something for San Juan Bautista. So we'll just see what comes of that. Whether there's enough money for Rogers Roundabout or whatever.
Well, Caltrans wants to build an expressway. They want as much room between the 2 lanes so that, and all the city wants to do is just add 2 more lanes. We can add 2 lanes of footprints there. I mean, there's enough base rock out there, you could do that. But that's not what they want. And we're going to pay for it anyway, so.
Did you notice the, what's his name, Rosales, or the guy from Caltrans that was up at the podium, how resistant he was to that? Yeah. Once Caltrans gets a plan in mind,
There's no talking.
I don't think God
There's
can
no
change
change.
it.
And I have dealt with Caltrans, and as Caltrans always said, you will die and we won't.
Yeah, just to let you know, the cities, San Juan, as well as the city of Hollister and the county, have got together and they're going to do a traffic impact feed rate analysis, and they've contracted with a firm to conduct that, and so they're evaluating that now.
That's all I get. There will be...
No meeting to report on. LAFCO doesn't normally meet in December, and we didn't this time.
Okay. Jim?
Just the fire meeting with you, but you wouldn't let me talk.
That's not true. Every time something came up, he looked at me. No, but
excuse me, I had one other thing. COG is going to do an unmet transit needs meeting in San Juan at the library at 2 o'clock on February the 18th. There's a series of 3 meetings, but they're going to have one in San Juan.
So we can re-announce that after the next meeting. At
Sure.
the next meeting. Are we on the 17th?
No, it'll be before then. Wait.
18th would be after this February 17th.
Yeah, you're right. It's after the meeting.
So we'll make sure we re-announce that one. I'd like to see a good turnout there. Fire committee pretty much was station updates. Station 3, they're still going through the plans through the county and trying to get everything permitted and going. They didn't have anything to report on Station 4 for us here. Station 1 and 2 are pretty much running about the same. We had the announcement that Chief O'Connor's last day will be January 30th. We haven't heard of replacement or anybody who's going to be taking his place at this time. So that was pretty much it for the fire report. Hopefully we'll have some more information. They are renegotiating the contract, and that's coming up at the end of June. We haven't been involved yet. We're hoping that we will be involved pretty soon. We just heard this at the last meeting. And going back to the intergovernment committee, the EMS with the 911 or reverse is, we see it a lot in the fire department where they get a fourth and, like you said, fourth in Monterey. And a lot of times if somebody's on their cell phone and they're coming through San Juan and they're driving and they get into the area of Hollister, it'll automatically transport over to that. There's a lot of islands in Hollister that are county in through there where the numbers change from like 694 to maybe 2095 within next door of each other. So they're trying to operate and get that fixed so that when they get an EMS call that they'll be able to find the location as soon as possible. They did find some areas around here that were inconsistent, like Lang Street and the way it comes over to Lang Court. Some of those have popped up on the grid for EMS, and the way the lines are changing in through the city. But so we're all working together. We're all going to try and get those numbers sorted out and stuff. So it should be working out a lot better. Those only 2 meetings that I had for the month, and sounds like Rick's got the right one though.
We've got, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
you have Eric from the Neighborhood Watch.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Our last meeting, Thursday before last, we had the presentation by Deputy Thompson and Captain Taylor. They did an outstanding presentation, even with some equipment malfunctions we had here at City Hall. They had a great presentation for us, explaining how their old system of having a single deputy do the city versus now where we have more of a random pattern, and they were able to quote certain crime statistics. Some were up, some were down compared to others. Some interesting information. They also discussed what the effects of their staff, decrease in staff over the last 7 to 8 years has been, and it's been substantial. Their overall staff has been decreased almost in half in the last 7 years.
Could I'd just like to throw out, I mean, we say half, but what he's talking about is 90 some officers to 40 some officers. I mean, just to get a sense of the scale of it. I really didn't understand the scale of it. I knew that we had very limited staffing, on a day-by-day basis, but I had no idea it was that level. And that includes your staffing the jails, the courts, and everything.
Administration, everything goes through
right.
there, and the courts.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. No, that was, it was eye-opening. I know we had kept hearing about their decreases, and it was just kind of eye-opening about how deep their decreases have been. So when they say that they're understaffed and trying to fulfill the need, they are, I think, doing an outstanding job given the staff they have. That's my opinion. So I do appreciate that both Sheriff Thompson and Captain Taylor were able to take time out of their busy schedule and join us. Captain Taylor was also able to take some time out and meet with Chris and I aside from that meeting, and we also appreciated that. We're able to get some really good information out of them. The group had discussed about the contracted hours, and it had also come up in the meeting about how our contracted hours over the last 10 or 15 years has actually decreased compared to what it used to be. There has been a lot of concern in the community, both in talking with people on the street and on social media sites, about the limited amount of hours that we have. And although I personally understand where the city and the budget lies. I think we're getting fairly good value from the sheriff's office. Obviously, we would love to have some more hours, but I'm not sure where that's going to fit in the budget itself without, raising money somewhere somehow. There were also, a lot of people had discussed about some recent thefts that we had and how we might, where that came about, how the trends had started. I've got to say that the website I'm starting to get, the nwsjb.com, I'm starting to get a lot of email requests to be put on our master email list. I'm starting to get questions coming in now. And that's kind of what we were hoping for. I'm able to, on more of the simple ones, it's more of when's the meeting again, even though on the front page it clearly states it's the second Thursday of every month with a clear schedule. No big deal. Happy to respond to them. And also, just as a footnote to all those who are listening and everybody in the room, if you see a crime, call it in, even if you don't think it's going to get taken care of. One of the things that we discussed was if you don't call it in, it's very hard to look at any statistics that we might get. If there are 5 crimes committed and only one of them gets called in, the sheriff's department and the city is going to say, well, we've only had 1 crime. So it makes things more accurate and able to figure out where we need to focus the efforts either of the sheriff, or neighborhood watch, or whatever means we need. It gives us better information, and I highly recommend that if anybody sees a crime or something that looks suspicious, call it into 911. First thing you tell them right off the bat is you're in San Juan Bautista. That'll help cure your 4th and Monterey issue, hopefully. But I highly recommend that everybody call in when they see that. Don't just say, no big deal, because you don't think anything's going to happen. If nothing happens, nothing happens. That's a separate issue. Call it in anyway. That's my recommendation. Our next meeting is February 12th, so I'll check and see. We can change our meetings around if that's already been set. No big deal. So our tentative schedule is February 12th. Keep watch on the NWSJB website, and we'll have that up. Next meeting is going to be fairly basic. We are going to kind of go back to basics, discuss things, how to keep your home safe, how to keep your cars from not being broken into, and whatnot.
All right.
Yeah.
One thing I think maybe on your website too, you might, reinforce. So many people, including myself, treat 911 as it's got to be an emergency. There's a car burning or whatever, and the way they explained it to us was call 911. You can tell them it's not an emergency, but there's a bunch of kids hanging around at 4th and Monterey or whatever. But everybody I've told that to has looked at me and said, well, wait, no, I thought you had to have had to be a dire emergency to call 911. And the way they explained it,
in our situation here, and I grew up, when I first moved to San Juan Bautista and I asked, they said call 911. I mean, it took me a while to find an actual number, phone number other than 911 to get into to find someone. And it was actually a hard habit for me to break of calling 911. There is a non-emergency line, and on the website, I'll make that a little more pronounced, but really 911 is your best way to get to the sheriff to report anything, be it a small crime, be it a major crime, being I need help immediately.
You were talking about having links to the sheriff's department on the website?
Yes.
Okay, have we finished with those yet?
Those links are up, yeah.
Okay.
I can add and subtract links. I try to make sure I get through the website every few days and just check to make sure everything is still linking in. But there's a link to the in the links page. There's a link to the city, this city's website. There's a link to the sbso.us. That's the sheriff's department website. There's also a direct link to the crime report portion of that, where you can actually go in day by day and look up the crime reports. I think there's also a link to the city's complaint form. There's several links, and if there's any other links anybody sees fit, by all means, let me know.
Yeah, Sheriff Thompson was also talking about going online and being able to fill out a report on crimes if, you know, if it's hard to get through or you don't want to call or so, that you can go on and fill out these reports and the deputy will get back to you. We'll call you back at a convenience.
Yeah, and I had actually remembered him saying that, and I had intended to actually send a link, put a link to that. So I'll research and find
That's
it.
what I was kind of looking for.
Yeah, it's easy enough to put that link on there. The website we use is pretty easy to link stuff up. So yeah, I'll research that, and if I can't find the answer, I'll get a hold of Captain Taylor and find out where it is.
Yeah, so if it's a crime or something that's already happened or so that you don't feel is a dire emergency, or you're not sure if it's an emergency, and you want to put it online, or go online and fill out this report, fill out all the information. I think it's only, what, one page?
I, to be honest, haven't looked at it.
Okay.
I
It's about
actually linked that, I'm sorry to interrupt, I actually linked that on the city's website on the chart.
city's website?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's right.
And you can fill out that report, and the those go to the deputies before the meeting in the morning, the, what they call the,
Roll call.
what's the meeting before you go out on?
Briefing?
Briefing, yeah, briefing. They come in on the briefing for that, and so everybody gets a copy of the report, and so they understand what has happened the day before and what kind of crimes and stuff that happened within the area, and so they'll be on the lookout for that stuff that comes up.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you for your work. Thank you. Do we have any other cards or anybody else with anything on that? Okay. All right, going to number 6 for public hearings. Consideration of the precinct 12 point. A would be consider adopting ordinance 2015-04. 01. Oh, that's the one from before. Pre-zone 12.5 acres of land situated at southwest corner of San Juan Hollister and Mission Vineyard Road to industrial. APN 012-190-039. First reading and introduction.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, this is a ordinance that's presented to you. It went through the Planning Commission, and it's part of a program that the Planning Commission began a couple years ago, where they delineated the area by well number 2 south of the Mission Vineyard Park as an industrial zone, and it's about 38 acres comprised 2 parcels, a 12.5 and an 18-acre industrial, and then a 7.5 would be remain in agriculture. And a mitigated negative declaration was approved by the city planning, and it's forwarded to you with the pre-zoning of the annexation for the 12I, and this is the public hearing where you will adopt a ordinance, first reading introduction for the land. It's a 12.5 acre parcel directly south of well number 3. Should be pointed out when you open the public hearing after the close is that before you introduce the ordinance to approve, you must consider the CEQA guidelines. CEQA guidelines was approved, and what you're doing is making a motion to reaffirm the adoption by the Planning Commission on that CEQA.
Okay, so the CEQA's all been completed?
Yeah.
And everything going through there? Okay. I'd like to open it up for public comment on that?
This isn't public comment. I just wanted to point out that if this is a first reading, we don't give the ordinance a number, not till it's adopted with the second reading.
Okay.
So this will not be overrun at this point.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'll bring it back to the council.
No questions.
No question.
Okay. So we'll move forward with the adoption of the ordinance.
I
And
think
that'll be
you
which,
should, I think you should have a motion to reaffirm that the adoption of the Planning Commission by Resolution 214-19 and the City Council by Resolution 214-48 with the findings and the initial study and negative declaration of the amendment of the 1998 General Plan Urban Growth Boundary and land use designation of 38.87 acres consisting of 4 parcels, APN 12, 190, 14, 22, 38, and 39.
Okay. Do I have a motion? So moved. So moved. So moved on that.
Yeah, you read
All
it.
right, this one's.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Councilmember Bach,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Edge,
Aye.
Mayor Lund.
Aye.
Members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the mayor passes unanimously.
Okay. Move along to B. Consider approving.
No, now you have to introduce and read by title only ordinance approving the pre-zoning of the 12.5 acres. That would be number 7 on the staff report.
Where's my 7? Did you find 7 yet?
No.
It's, okay, so
The
Robert,
action item
on number-
on my staff report.
yeah, on his staff report, on the back side, he's saying number 7 of the actions required. So it's the very next page is this ordinance.
Okay. And what ordinance do we have for that one?
We need
The
to-
no number, you just read by title only and introduce.
Introduce ordinance 2015
Yeah.
dash 8 ordinance approving the pre-zoning of the 12.5 acres to an industrial zone district 1. And that's the one we have to read for that.
We have a motion and a second.
So moved.
And a motion? Second?
Second.
And
Did we,
all in favor?
Councilmember West,
roll call.
will you do a roll call?
Go ahead.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Councilmember Bach,
Yes.
Councilmember Martorano,
Aye.
Councilmember Edge,
Aye.
Mayor Lund.
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the mayor passes unanimously.
Okay, for that one.
Okay. Still on that one.
Losing my
There's
place
one
here.
more there.
Now, in 6B is part of the 6A, and that is that you're approving a resolution initiating the annexation proceedings of the 12.5 acres that will go to LAFCO.
So reading out number 6.
Well, do we,
And that would be Resolution 215-04.
that's a separate agenda item. Do we need to have public comment on that?
Yes, you can have,
Okay. So before the reading, we'll have public comment. Anybody from the public? Do we have any speaker cards? Okay, we'll bring it back to council.
Nothing, thanks.
Tony? Good. Okay. So we'll make a motion to reaffirm the adoption of the Planning Commission's Resolution 2014. Is that going to be the 04?
no,
No.
no, 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 no.
19.
You're on 6B.
6.
So that would be I move for a resolution for application of the city of San Juan Bautista initiating proceedings for a 12.5 acre parcel of land, APN 012-190-039, annexation into the city of San Juan Bautista.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Councilmember Bach,
Yes.
Councilmember Martorano,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lund.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Edge,
Aye.
I don't have this.
Mayor Lund.
I know. Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the mayor passes unanimously.
It's all on here.
Yes, see, I don't have a back page.
If you go to 6A,
6A of the staff?
go to 6A.
Okay, I have 6B.
Oh, okay, I was in D.
It's on the back of that.
There you go.
This is what Roger's been
Yeah.
referring to.
Okay, so then the next would be the 6C on that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then the next item is 6C, and this is the adoption of ordinance, and this is the second reading and adoption. A number will be established for the pre-zoning of the .78 acres. This is your well site number 3, situated at 651 San Juan Hollister Road, and that it'll be adopted by ordinance.
Okay, so we're going to open that to, that's 1 through 4? Okay. Recommendation open to the public hearing? Do we have any speaker cards on that? Okay, staff report?
Again, this is just a follow-up of a part of the initial study and mitigated negative declaration that was adopted for the 38.87 acres of the 4 parcels on the south side of San Juan Hollister Road that would be included in the industrial classification for the city of San Juan Bautista.
Okay.
So,
Any,
I'm sorry, is this a first reading or is this we're voting on
This is
it?
the second reading. You
Second
introduced
reading.
it at the last
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you.
so we can close that to public hearing now?
Well,
Okay. And then
No,
just,
bear in mind is that the next 4 ordinances were introduced and read by title only, and that is the reservoir site, the cemetery, which Councilman Bach will have to recuse himself, and then the pre-zoning of the 18 acres.
I can stay until G, unless you do
So
all
each
4 at
one,
once.
each one as you bring up will be separate, and then you will adopt them,
Right.
adopt the ordinance, and read by title only.
okay, so what we're instructed here is that we will read ordinance 2015, give it a number, pre-zone for well site number 3. On each one, it's going to be just by title only.
So on your agenda, 6C would be ordinance 215-01.
01, a pre-zone of 0.78 acres, well site number 3.
Yes.
And ordinance 2015, will that be, what ordinance will that one be?
No, take C by itself and make the motion, and then you open the public hearing for D, and then do the same thing, and then open for E, and you can't take them all at once.
Okay. So right now, we're just going to open for public hearing.
perfect.
Okay. Anybody, public hearing, any cards? And then our staff report.
Again, the 7/10 of an acre is one of the parcels that was pre-zoned by the Planning Commission as an industrial application for well site number 3.
Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing since there was no comment on that. Any motion to adopt?
So, you have to read it?
Yes.
And that one will be on.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Juan, Bautista, pre-zoning a .78 acre parcel of land situated at 651 San Juan Hollister Road, APN 012-190-038.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Councilmember Bach,
Aye.
Councilmember Marciano,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Rivers,
Aye.
Mayor Lynn.
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Okay, so then we move on to 6.2. Ordinance 2015 dash, which will that be? 2.
This would be 2.
Pre-zone of 1.63 acres reservoir site. Open up for public.
Oh, yeah. These are out of order.
Mine's out of order.
6D
Yeah.
on your agenda is adopted a resolution pre-zoning 18.07 acres
Yeah.
parcel.
Here we go. I got it here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Anything from public? I'll just take that for your staff report.
Again, this is part of the approval by the Planning Commission of the 38.87 acres. And initial study and negative declaration was adopted.
Okay. We close the public hearing and any discussion with the council? No. Okay, motion to adopt and read by title only, ordinance. Do you want that one?
Your turn, Jim.
My turn. Ordinance number, do we have an ordinance number for this?
2.
02. Ordinance number 2814-02.
2015.
215, yeah.
No, I got the wrong one here.
No,
No,
probably
it's
not.
just everything that, it's just, it was.
The year
it was-
change.
It was a carryover from the Planning Commission.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista rezoning 18.07 acre parcel of land situated at 375 San Juan Hollister Road, APN 012-190-022.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
This is the one.
Yes.
63.
Yes.
Councilmember Bach,
Yes.
Councilmember Martorana,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Edge,
Aye.
Mayor Lunt.
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
I'm going to skip. Can I skip the next one?
Now, the next one is E, is that this is ordering the annexation proceedings, and this is a resolution, it would be 215-05.
And you have that on the,
And that would be 6E.
okay?
Okay, I make a resolution. Oh, you got to open it.
Well, yeah. Public, any input? Comment? Okay. Close it off down to staff report.
Again, this is part of the Planning Commission's recommendation to the City Council.
Okay, I'm going to close public hearing. Any discussion through council?
No comment.
All right. Motion to adopt by
Make a
total
motion
only?
to Approve resolution 2015-05, a resolution for the application of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista, initiating proceedings for the 18.07 acre APN
This one I'm going to read.
012-190-022 property annexation into the City of the San Juan
He's
Bautista.
reading now.
Second?
All approved?
Aye.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Councilmember Bach,
Yes.
Councilmember Martorana,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Edge,
Aye.
Mayor Lunt.
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
The next one is F. It's the 1.63 acres. Done?
Yeah. And this one will be for line item 5. Is that for line item 5? Is that for line item 5 on the?
That would be 6F.
Okay. An ordinance of the City of Council, City of San Juan Bautista pre-zoning a 1.63 acre parcel of land situated at 600 Lawson Drive, APN 012-140-027. I'll open that up by title only as, excuse me, open up for public hearing. Okay, staff report?
Again, this is part of the Commission's approval to do house cleaning on an annexation. This is the reservoir site that is up at the Lawston. It is not in the city, and we want to annex it. The reason is that because it's not in the city, we have to pay property tax.
Yeah, that's what I remember on that.
Yeah. So
Okay, I'll close for a public hearing. Any discussion through the council?
None.
Okay. All right, introducing annexation proceeding. Do we have a number for that one?
Well, it would be ordinance 215-03.
03.
I move to adopt an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista pre-zoning a 1.63 acre parcel of land situated at 600 Las Juan Drive, APN 012-140-027.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember West.
Aye.
Councilmember Locke.
Aye.
Councilmember Grant.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Edge.
Aye.
Mayor Lund.
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
The next item is the annexation of the 2.72 acre parcel for the San Juan Cemetery. Tony Bach is one of the board of directors of that. He will have to recuse himself and remove himself from the council chambers.
And that's item D?
That would be
6G.
item 6G.
This one's out of order, okay. Take this one out. Okay, so that'd be ordinance 2015-04,
04.
pre-zone 2.72 acre cemetery site. I'd like to open that up for a public hearing. Anybody? Okay, close that for staff report.
Again, this is part of the house cleaning of bringing in 2/3 of the cemetery is inside the city limits and 1/3 is in the county. It results in a jurisdictional problem of answering thefts and police. So bringing it into the city solidifies the jurisdictional problems.
Okay. I'll close the public hearing and council have anything? No. Okay, motion to adopt and read by title only, ordinance.
Ordinance number 2015-04, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista pre-zoning a 2.72 acre parcel of land situated at 65 Monterey Street, APN 002-280-001.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember West.
Aye.
Councilmember Grant.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Edge.
Aye.
Mayor Lund.
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 4-1 abstain.
Wasn't an abstain, it's a conflict of interest, so it's a no vote.
No vote.
So on item H, you want to move that to?
The 6H, we would like the city council to continue that. There's still a little housekeeping of the sign ordinance that we have to do. We got the final comments from George Thatcher, and we'll incorporate that.
Okay. All right, that'll commence our public hearings there, and then we'll move along to number 7, action items. Consider resolution 2015 dash, do we have a number for that one yet?
That would be 06.
06, 07?
07?
07, authorizing commencement of proceedings to refinance outstanding 2008 water and wastewater revenue bonds and adopting the necessary consultants in connection therewith. Do anybody would like to, can we open that for public?
Excuse me, I think after after Cameron made his
We had already did the
spiel, we
resolution on
did
it.
this one.
We already
So
did
this
that.
is passed with 2015-03.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Deborah on that? Okay. That's what I was thinking. Move on to C. Consider an ordinance 2015 dash, will that one be 07?
This would be 05.
05?
This is first reading. yeah.
Don't establish the number. This is first reading and introduction.
It's an introduction?
Yeah.
Okay, establishing a San Juan Bautista Youth Commission. Now, this was the one that Shauna Friels came up and commented, brought up? Okay.
Yeah, this was a product of the Strategic Plan Committee, and both John Freeman and Shauna were not able to be here tonight.
Okay.
But I can probably answer questions if there are any.
Any public comment? None? No cards? Okay. Chris, can you elaborate on it a little bit?
Well, there's a number, there was a fair amount of feedback during the general plan process, as well as previous sort of community canvassing about getting more youth involvement in the planning process, in the operation of the city government, providing feedback on youth issues, those sorts of things. It's a pretty common practice, I think, out there today to have youth commissions or committees for cities, and it was modeled after, I believe, the Gilroy ordinance, and was taken up by, as I said, the Strategic Plan Committee, and was created. The ordinance was written by Shauna, and seems to be pretty well supported by that group. So they will, I don't know that there's anything that we necessarily need to do other than approving membership and the leadership. It pretty much falls to the Strategic Plan Committee to organize it and get it noticed, advertised, and they will present candidates for both the adult liaison and the membership, the general membership.
Okay. And that'll be going in our strategic plan?
Good question. In the general plan, I don't know if there's a specific provision for a youth commission, but I believe it is.
It is in it?
Yeah, I
Okay.
believe it's,
Youth Commission. I don't know
yeah.
the number, but
Yeah, so it is part of the general plan draft, the creation of this commission. It, I think, was sort of seen as one of the low-hanging fruit, so to speak.
I don't know if this is politically correct or not, but is there adult supervision of this? Or?
Yes,
So is that somebody we have to appoint? Or?
yes.
And if nobody is taking that responsibility, what happens at that point? Does it dissolve, or does it just postpone until somebody takes that?
Yeah, it isn't dissolved. They're really, we're just creating the committee, commission. The commission itself would then generate bylaws, as we did as part of the Strategic Plan Committee, and so those sort of details would be
Worked out after it's established?
created. Exactly. But I know there hasn't been any particular outreach to do any recruiting for it, and I know of one, I believe, retired teacher that has stepped forward and asked already to be considered for it.
Okay. Thanks for the information. That helped out a lot.
Sure.
Okay. I can proceed with asking for a second on the consideration for an ordinance.
Is it?
The ordinance is a first reading introduction,
Okay. And is that?
So does that mean I read the ordinance
Read
title?
by
and-
title only, yeah.
Okay,
And
so
introduce.
I'll read by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista adding a new Article 2 entitled Youth Commission to San Juan Bautista Municipal Code, Chapter 2-3, Boards and Commissions, to establish a San Juan Bautista Youth Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Councilmember Fox,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Early,
Aye.
Mayor Lund.
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is taken by the mayor passes unanimously.
Okay. Move along to item D, consider resolution 2015 dash, what do we have on that one?
My mistake, it was actually 06 that we're on.
06 is what we're on?
2015-06.
Okay. 2015-06, approving agreement with Juan Pacheco for agricultural water use from well number 3.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as you are well aware of, well number 3 is inactive and it has not been connected to our distribution system because of high nitrates. It's up in the 88 milligrams per liter. It has been offline for approximately 3 years. It has resulted from the high nitrates, the proximity to septic systems that are very close in proximity from the mobile home park and the industrial buildings across the street. We had a sanitary lift station installed with the infrastructure, the 208 infrastructure. We have the pumps and we installed the pumps and got them activated with a controller and stuff like that. It's operational and automatic and functioning now. The DSs have connected to it and have eliminated their septic system. It is now our desire is to purge the well and start running it to see if we could decrease the nitrates. Mr. Pacheco requested that he came forward and said that he would like to use well number 3 for irrigation purposes of his lands directly to the south. And I think it serves the city and behooves us is to look at that and rather than us pumping water down a ditch and into the creek, rather than use it for beneficial use of the crops. He stepped forward. We've developed a well agreement that says that we own the well, we will supply him water, he will use the water for irrigation. We make no implied or consent agreement that the water is potable, that it's, and if we're not warranting that it's substantial for the crops. I think City Attorney Deborah Mall helped me develop the agreement, and we've got safeguards in there to where we would not be held liable if somebody happens to eat some of the products and it does have high nitrates, that we would not be held liable. And I think adequately it serves our purpose, and I would recommend that we adopt the resolution and then authorize the mayor to execute the agreement with Mr. Pacheco.
Roger, do we have a something in there if we have like an emergency that we could take it over immediately?
Even if we had an emergency in other wells, we could not take it over because it is offline. It is disconnected and it's not connected to the distribution system.
Okay, I'm thinking a little more catastrophic. You know, if something happened, if you know, we had a major fire through somewhere. Through the canyon.
I think that goes hand in hand with our effort to drill a new well on either well site number 2A or 4 next to the Karasaki's. That will be our backup position, and that's about to commence shortly.
Okay, great. I also see he had was this the attendant letter that he had wrote?
Yes.
Wrote out to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Pacheco's in the audience if you'd like to ask him any questions.
Sure, if you'd like to come up.
Oh, he left?
Oh, he left? This is an early
Roger,
one, too.
is this basically the same agreement we had with Dale Coke?
Very similar, almost identical, yes. He will reimburse the city for electricity. In the Dale Coke, we transferred the electrical meter to Dale Coke, and he paid it directly. When he left it go back, we brought it back into the city. We're going to keep the city meter in our name, and then we'll make the readings, and whatever bill we get from there, he will reimburse us on a monthly basis.
I guess the only other question I had was, he's paying the cost that we pay to the water district for groundwater, but we're not charging him the city water fees.
No, the cost of the water to pumping, plus our O&MI to operate that well, you know, and keep it functioning, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
because I couldn't remember, I knew at Coke at one time there was a meter, in fact, I think it's still there, there's a meter.
yeah.
And I didn't know, was that, did Coke get a water bill from us, or?
Oh, yes.
So is Mr. Pacheco gonna?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And also, we have in there where if the pump needs repair or maintenance and everything, that he will be responsible for it. Very similar to the agreement we had with Dale Cove.
Is there a cap or limit on the repair?
No.
So if the whole thing just,
In Dale Coke's, the motor burnt up and they had to replace it. Yeah. So it's a rebuilt. It was put in about, I think a year ago or a year and a half ago. Yeah.
I think it's been a couple years, it's when it caught on fire, right?
Yeah.
I was on that call.
Can't get away with anything in this talk.
Okay. Well, since he's not in the audience, we don't have any comment from him. Any public comment on there? Okay, bring it back to council.
And I think Trish gave you a copy of the resolution. That would be 2015-06.
How much acreage is he farming there? Curiosity.
I know he's got the 12 and a half acres, and then he has part of the 18 acres.
Okay. So he's not going to run us dry by any
No.
means.
Oh, no.
Was that a
Thank
revised?
you.
Was that one revised?
No, I don't have one.
No, the revised was in earlier.
Okay, so it's just under the well agreement here?
Correct.
Okay.
The resolutions, yeah, that accompanies the resolution.
Let's see, I'll read it. A resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista approving the well agreement between the City of San Juan Bautista and Juan Pacheco Fresh Value Farms for agriculture irrigation water from City Well Number 3.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember West?
Yes.
Councilmember Buck?
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Rich?
Aye.
Mayor Lund?
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the major passes unanimously.
All right. Okay, moving along, we're going to consider selection of CMAP representative.
What about strategic planning?
E. Oh, sorry. Marked that one off before. Okay, let's go back to E. Sorry, everybody. Consider changes to strategic planning committee membership.
You and Vanda, okay.
Bring it
As
back to you
I
again.
said before, as I said, John Freeman was not able to join us tonight. There were three suggested additions to the committee. That would be JJ from JJ's Burgers.
Jose?
Jesus.
Jesus? Yeah.
I believe, correct, Maggie? Yes. Vanda Guibert and Eric Gretasoff. So those were the three recommended additions to the strategic plan committee.
Any of them in the
Eric is here. I don't know if you have any questions for him, but
all right.
he attended the meeting, as did Vanda.
Okay.
This last meeting, excuse me.
All right, we'll bring it back to the council. How do you feel?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going to appoint, you want to make the motion to appoint those three?
Sure, I move that we appoint Vanda Guibert, Eric Gretisoff, and Jesus, and I'm afraid I don't know his last name.
Zavala.
Zavala?
Zavala.
Zavala to the Strategic Plan Committee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember West,
Yes.
Councilmember Bach,
Yes.
Councilmember Martorana,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ridge,
Aye.
Mayor Lund.
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion as stated by the mayor passes unanimously.
Okay, now we'll move along to item F. Consider selection of CMAP representative. I will.
Council members, Mayor, at the last meeting, when we were assigning representatives to the various committees, it was brought to our attention that we did not have a CMAP representative. So I went back in my emails and I contacted Al Stoberl, and he totally supported Bob Reed as CMAP representative, and you have in your packet Bob's bid for the position. So that's where we are with that. And Bob is here in the audience if you have any questions of him. I think it's, I'd have to go back, monthly meeting, and there's some fundraising involved.
Do you have his? Do you have his proposal?
There's just a note.
It's just a
letter.
Letter.
Yeah.
Let's bring him in and interrogate him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
Give him a
see.
lot of crap.
Bob, you want to come up here? Come on, get up. We got any room for negotiation here?
I want a blue couch and green M&Ms.
Well, we might be able to
The
do one
M&M
of
we
them.
can afford.
Yeah, this is San Juan, so maybe the
couch on the
M&Ms
screen.
will have to. Put it. Yeah, bring it to council here, but
I attended a couple of CMAP meetings, and I looked around the table and realized that there was no one from CMAP at any of those meetings, and that they had gone through the whole process of hiring an executive director without San Juan having any representation during that process. And if somebody else would like to do it, that would be just fine with me. But I'm willing to step in and see if I can help.
appreciate it if you could.
No, this isn't going to jump up and bite us if you're not a resident of San Juan Bautista.
No.
Well, Al wasn't.
Al was
Yeah.
If anybody knows more about what's going on in San Juan than Bob, I don't know who he is.
Yeah. I think that's why he doesn't live here.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Should this be open? Should this be advertised? Have we had any? I mean, I don't know what. I know this has come up a couple of times before, but I don't know. As I understand it, they're looking for someone to. One of the primary functions, they're looking for a treasurer and someone to do a lot of fundraising.
Well, I think this position is specifically because CMAP is a partnership between Hollister, San Juan Bautista, and Gilroy, that each of those governments needs to have a representative on that board. So what the officers on the board are going to be, I think, is not really relevant.
In terms of the treasurer position, they are looking for help with fundraising specifically.
Yeah,
That's
all
one of
the
their
board
key-
members are expected to do
everybody.
fundraising.
Yeah.
They are looking for other members as well. There are at-large members that people are interested in being on the board. They can apply to the board. On the CMAP website, there's an article there that says they're seeking board members. So I would encourage people to apply if they're interested.
What would be a good description of a member then? What would they do other than attending meetings and input? Is there?
Well, you would make
other
policy and
you know, depending on the state of the organization, they are about to move again from Christopher High School. So the next board will probably be involved in finding their new home. And there will be a lot of board activity with that. They just hired a new executive director